I'd like to call this meeting to order. May we have roll call, please, Mr. Crotty?
Okay. Mr. Accomando?
Present.
Ms. Borelli?
Present.
Ms. Ainello?
Present.
Mr. Laurentino?
Present.
Ms. Mahoney?
Present.
Mr. Quinn?
Present.
Ms. Robinson?
Here.
Ms. Roloff?
Here.
Mrs. Zottarelli?
Present.
May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming tonight. Adequate notice of this meeting has been sent to all members of the Board of Education and to the Bergen Record in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, 1975. At this time, please be advised that all cell phones and electronic devices are to be turned off. Do we have a superintendent's report for tonight?
We do. But you'll have to bear with me while I read some of the same things on Wednesday. So, good evening, everybody. I just would like to highlight a few things that have been going on. Last week, the Township Committee, Mayor and Council recognized our female Board of Education members, as well as two of their female Town Council members, in recognition of Women's History Month, women's suffrage, and the anniversary of women's vote. So I did post a lovely picture on the Facebook page. If you didn't see it, you can see it. It was a lovely tribute. And congratulations to all of our ladies. This past weekend, for those of you who had the opportunity to see Beauty and the Beast here at the high school, it was incredible. Such a talented cast of these young people. You just can't believe how young they are and the incredible professional work that they do. And Frank Ortega, who practically broke his foot, managed to get back here in time for the show Thursday night and conduct with one foot up on a stool in ice. And the show must go on, so I have to give them credit for doing that. It was great. I just wanted to remind everybody that this Thursday is STEMCon. God bless you. It is STEMCon, and it will be hosted here between the hours of 11 and 2. And anybody who wants to attend from the outside can just request. If your child is actually participating in STEMCon, you could request a pass from your child's teacher or from your child. And if your child is not participating in STEMCon and you just want to see it, you can request a pass from Miss Evelyn, from the high school main office. So I hope everybody gets a chance to go. It should certainly be worth your while. I would like to share, most of you should already know by now about Wednesday's planned early dismissal day. So I just want to go through a few things so that we can clarify maybe any misinformation that might be out there. Let me just start by saying there's nobody in Saddlebrook that is being tested for coronavirus. There's nobody in Saddlebrook who has tested positive for coronavirus. There is no suggestion in any of what we are doing here to even remotely suggest that anybody here is sick and that we have to shut down. If you read my many letters, and I sometimes think people maybe just glance over, we were notified by the New Jersey Department of Education that we collectively, every school in New Jersey might at some point be shut down by the Department of Health. And should we be shut down by the Department of Health, we would need to shut down for a period of time. I'm just assuming in my head 14 days because that's what everybody was talking about, but you can't really assume. And that we could earn credit for those days if and only if you're shut down by the Department of Health, if you have homebound instruction plans in place so that the children can work at home. Okay, that's the directive. So our directive is to plan and prepare. In addition to the homebound instruction comes a little more complicated directive to provide breakfast and lunch to students who receive free and reduced breakfast and lunch. That is something we have been in the conversation with Pomptonian about how to do this. They've done this before. They've done this for other emergencies. They have experience with this, and they are actually guiding us on what our possible options are, thank goodness. That's why you have great companies like that, so that they can do their piece while we're doing our piece. So over the weekend, some districts had it on the news that they were closing for a day to do this preparation. Some of those districts have technology-rich programs that result in creating videos for flipped classrooms and a variety of other things that we don't have the full capacity to do. We have capacity in spots. Maybe at the middle and high school levels, the students and teachers are communicating digitally more often, but the message is that we cannot make the assumption that the child is going to have technology at home, and therefore a child cannot be excluded from the learning because your lesson is technology rich. Whatever it is that is planned must be accessible to all children. Accommodations and modifications for students with IEPs, 504s, students who are English language learners, all needs to be addressed. Initially, I asked the teachers if they could have their emergency plans completed by Wednesday of this week. I know that was a short timeline, but it's a short timeline because we're being directed to produce this very quickly. The association asked me, could we have some more time or have some shared time or something? Can you help us out somehow? I said, let me see what I can do. So we decided that on Wednesday, the administrative team looked at our calendars. We had no major trips going out on Wednesday. We didn't think we were interrupting anything major. I checked with all the schools to do an early release on Wednesday. We also thought that an early release, I spoke to our president, an early release is probably better for parents than a delayed opening, let's say. Sometimes it's easier to get your kid picked up at the end of the day than to not have them go into school late 2 hours because you have to go to work. So we're trying to do what's good for parents. That lets the students go home. The teachers could work for an hour this afternoon because they had a department time or grade level planning Monday, and they could have a few hours on Wednesday. Then I moved the time for the plans to be due to Friday. So the first thing I did, after all those decisions were made, I first communicated with the full board what my plans were. And I told them that I was waiting to hear back from Champions to ensure that Champions could staff their aftercare program immediately after early dismissal on Wednesday because they had not prepared to do that. Then I wanted to make sure that the faculty received my communication before they went into their 3 o'clock meeting. So I communicated with the faculty next. And then I waited to notify the parents because I hadn't heard back from Champions yet. They were still waiting to hear from a few people to make sure they could be fully staffed. I had the letter ready. As soon as Champions told me they could cover, I sent the letter out to parents, and it was slated to hit at 5 p.m. That's where we are. I wasn't keeping anything from the parents. I wasn't trying to be evasive in not sharing it with them, but it's my understanding that some internal people might have shared this information with parents, and therefore it hit social media before my letter went out. So I need the parents to just trust that if I don't send a letter to you, at the same time I'm sharing it with my faculty, there's probably a reason for that. And that was because I was waiting for aftercare. So that is what happened. Nobody here has corona. We are preparing because the state has directed us to. And there were plenty of teachers who were actually done with their plans and had them submitted this morning. So I didn't think we needed more than one day. And that's where we are. And I know it's an inconvenience for parents, but a real inconvenience for parents is going to be if and when the Department of Health shuts us down and your children are home for 2 weeks. So we're trying to do the best that we can in the situation that we have, and that's where we are. On Wednesday, all after-school activities for middle and high school, meaning athletics, will still take place at 3 o'clock. The children will not be allowed into the building until 3 o'clock because the teachers will be working. So they can't come at 2:45 to get ready in the locker room because they will not be able to get into the building. And then we have Coffee with the Superintendent is Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. That is still on. I will send out a reminder. And the board meeting, obviously, will still be on. Thank you.
You're welcome. I was just waiting for that one more.
It's like 110 degrees in here, isn't it?
Can we have the business administrator's report, please?
I just have one item right now that we are, just to tag along with that, is that we are cleaning the buildings as best we could. The custodians are doing a great job, and we're also cleaning the school buses and doing the best we could. Usually we do it around this time, but it's being done a little more extensively, and we'll continue doing it. The rest of the items, as we do the different sections in the agenda, I'll go through certain items at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Under board action items, we're just going to deal with B68 at the moment. B69 and B70 will be discussed and closed. So does anybody have any question on B68, which are all the meeting minutes? Seeing none, we'll move to education and curriculum. Does anybody have any questions concerning E74 through E75.4, I guess?
I have a question on E75. What does that mean, number one, parent training?
There are times when we provide in-home training
Okay. So,
for the parents, like ABA training.
thank you.
Anyone else for that section? Okay, finance, budget, and facilities will be discussed and closed. Huh?
Not all of it.
Okay, which parts do you want to address?
So is there any, I've sent some emails to the board. I know there was a lot of stuff going through over the weekend. So I guess start with maybe F-250, continuing with the John Brody Trust Funds, looking to do these two items. We're in our items that we were slated for the use of these funds for the high school. So we're addressing fencing around the athletic field and the varsity softball field with the bleachers and concrete pads. I'll continue if there's no questions. F-251 and 252, we had two bid openings on Friday, and unfortunately, they were both over our estimates. Again, these weren't budgeted items. They were used part of capital reserve monies and other balances, so we had to postpone them right now. The office renovations, we're going to try to do, break it up a little bit, use some ed data contractors and some staff to do some of the work and I guess phase it in. I want to save the budget. After the budget, on F-255, 256, 257 are all budget related. 255 is the travel. We have to state this when we're submitting the budget, how much we have budgeted for and how much we've used to date on travel expenses. 256 is a special education Medicaid initiative action plan we have to write each year. And then on Wednesday, we're going to spend the tentative budget, and we have to also adopt a date to have the public hearing and adoption of the final budget. So we've, the committee reviewed the dates and recommended May 4th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium for that hearing and adoption. 258 is, now this usually the computer lease purchases each year. They're usually done in the summer. However, this was done through, the bulk of it was done through E-rate funding. So we're purchasing like around $200,000 of network switches and other networking equipment, and we're getting 40% funding for that. So the net cost of that is $120,000. So we're able to purchase additional wireless access points for the schools and another Chromebook cart and a couple other carts to fill in for other Chromebooks we purchased. So the total of that will be an annual lease payment over 4 years, and that'll be into number 259 when I get back, when the lease purchase consultant gets back to me with the cost. I'll have that before Wednesday. 260 was just sent to you today. You can look over that. Is, I think, 3 students' balances. There was issues with submitting the application, so I put the student number, the amount, and the reason for canceling the balances, and 261 was to clear up this part of one of the contractors for the vestibule. There was an allowance in there that wasn't used, so that's a credit back to the district. Any questions on those items? If not, we'll move to the budget.
Yeah, through the chair. 252, I know you said it was overbid, but is the roof going to be repaired before you put that unit on top of it? Over the auxiliary gym?
This was for the HVAC renovations were at Franklin and Smith schools. So we're
What about-
rejecting these bids.
What about the high school here?
Well, then, we're going to get into the budget now with the question. I didn't get to
All
that
right, well,
one.
with the question, is that going to be fixed before you propose that question?
The roofs were fixed.
There's a leak in the auxiliary gym. I mean, how do I know and then nobody else knows? Yeah.
That's a good question.
Good question.
We'll find out about it.
We'll find out.
I don't know how anybody can't know there's pails there when it rains.
It's when you turn blind eyes.
Okay, so on the budget, for the,
Wait, through the chair, I just have to, before we go into budget, I think it was the additional email you sent us, you said that we were looking into putting a scoreboard.
yeah, I mentioned we had some other items earmarked for the John Brody funds was a
Yes, and
Yeah.
that was for a scoreboard for the boys' baseball field. But that's not on our property, that's county property. How are we putting a scoreboard up there?
well, it's not first, that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for county approval. They have to go through their process. We'd be purchasing it, but yes, it would be, after it's put up, I mean, it's really county property if we leave that field. But right now, there's no plans on leaving it.
I understand that.
So it was a digital sign, a scoreboard.
But do we also have anything from them saying next year they're going to decide they're not going to let us play there or whatever?
I don't have anything in writing for that.
So they can basically just throw us off anytime they want?
Yes, I guess they could, but it wouldn't be nice.
Okay.
That would have
And
been
then we'll
nice of
take the
them to do
scoreboard with
that.
us.
The high school needs one.
I'll be the first one there with a screwdriver.
You can't do that.
Why not?
Any other questions on that section before Ray goes into budget?
Okay? Sorry, Michelle, if I'm taking too much of your thunder away from you. We can do a committee report? I think I might have hit most of the items already. The budget for the non-budget committee members, you received the packet in front of you. In there is a budget comparison sheet comparing the numbers from last year, the adoption in last year's budget to this year, showing the different increases or decreases. You have a detailed salary sheet, a single line item of every account in the budget, and also a detail of that account. So, you know, you're free to go through that. I don't expect you all to have it read by Wednesday, but anytime after that, even up to May 4th, and even past that, if you have any questions, you could always call me. So the budget basically retains all current staffing positions. We had to fit back in some maintenance projects, because last year, if you remember, we used maintenance reserve to balance the budget. So we were able to build back some maintenance projects. We had to scale back some tuition projections, which was a bulk of our amount over cap, and adjust to some revenues, but we were able to, right now, balance the budget. There were a lot of other needs besides maintenance capital items. There was a lot of staffing needs. We can't do that right now. We received $176,000 more in state aid. The state is looking to hopefully fund the formula, and hopefully in a couple more years. So just roughly, we should have gotten a little over $2.1 million. We received a little over $1.5 million, so we're a little shy of $700,000 short of where we should be. And I put an email, I guess the bulk of it is we're not receiving, the state has a threshold for the number of special ed students the district should have, and that number is between special ed and speech only is 15.4%. We currently have 21.7, so the state does not give you any more funding over that 15.4, which is roughly like 111 students. So we have to focus on that, and that's, I said, that's a bulk of the budget and then the increases. So again, the state doing the formula calculations, they have a certain amount that the local district can absorb, and then they give state aid on, say, another 1/3 of that calculation, and I said we're well over that threshold. We're over the state average. So the numbers in 253 are fund totals. The general fund's broken down to those three categories. Then the special revenue fund is a estimate for the local, state, and federal grants, and the debt services are principal and interest or mortgage payments for a total budget of $38,188,143. And that's made up of general fund tax levy, a little over $33 million, and to support the debt service, $1,912,000. So again, feel free, go through that budget and everything, but the reason the budget's due March 20th. The reason I want to get moving on this, I don't foresee any Chandler changes right now. We're kind of handcuffed what we can do. I'll be finalizing the document, but I want to get off to the county office in case we are closed, and I can't get it down there. So I'd rather get it off as soon as possible, get their approval back, and then we'll adopt it on May 4th. So with that said, you go on to 254 is the committee discussed, how can we get other projects completed? We haven't had capital monies in our budget since 2014 when we did the referendum. Probably should do a referendum every 6-7 years to somehow tackle those projects. So we are thinking about that, but in the meantime, we were trying to see what else can we do. I thought that the air conditioning in the gyms in Franklin Smith would be approved. I thought they were coming within budget, because right now the only one that's has air conditioning is Long School, because we used to use that as a cafeteria, so that was done a different way. So I thought the logical sense was then to air condition the 2 gymnasiums at the high school. So the committee discussed that, and then the idea of lighting the athletic field came up as well. So I received estimates from our architect. So between the air conditioning the 2 gyms and the lighting would be $1.3 million. Right now, the estimates for taxes, I haven't got any final numbers from the township, what they are using for any kind of rateable increase, or because the town has a rolling assessment of taxes, the house, value changes. But roughly, the general budget is right down to a $34 increase. That may go up a little bit. This additional monies, which is a one-time tax levy for the 1 year, but $1.3 million would be $104 for the average assessed home, is roughly around $340,000. So $104 for an average house assessed at around $340,000. Any questions on the budget or the separate question?
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to policy. I'll let you do this, Mariana.
So we met on February 24th. It was Martino, Robinson, Lynn, myself, Mr. Shanley, Mr. Brody. A few of the items that were discussed was we're reviewing our bylaws. So it was bylaw 143.2, student representative to the Board of Ed, board member orientation, board member appointment and removal, board member authority, board member identification, organizational meeting, board officers, annual appointments, and annual motion and resignation. Our make a question. This is the first reading.
And as I stated in the email, yeah, 1450145 will be discussed in closed session with the attorney. Any other ones you could discuss? Well, the members should have a bylaw book right now. The committee has them, but this bylaw book has the second reading that we did last month, as well as these first readings with the changes noted in bold or strikeouts. And we'll keep adding to the binder as we go through them. And as I said before in the email, there's no rush to make these changes. We'd like to get the goal done and all squared away by June. So if we need to pull one off for a change, even if we had it on for a second reading, we'll pull it off and discuss it, make any changes, and put it on for another subsequent meeting.
Anybody have any questions on any of the policies?
Through the chair, I have a request. I had a problem last month opening up everything, and I had a problem this month. I got blank pages. Mrs. Shanley was kind enough to send me PDFs of all the first readings. Can you just send me B0134, Board Self-Evaluation? It's a second reading before Wednesday. 34. I know you asked me and I had said no, but now I'm looking. I'd like to just review that.
Did you get the binder right there? It should be actually right in that binder.
It should be in this binder?
Correct. Theoretically speaking.
0134.
I'm looking.
Board self-evaluation.
Okay. You don't have to send it to me, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? The policies?
Can't we make it mandatory?
Kelly, do you want to say anything regarding negotiations at this point, or wait till Wednesday?
I'll just... So the one item that's on the agenda, we almost had that done, and then the association found a couple of words that I'm going to be talking to Mrs. Clean about that, and we'll try to get this corrected and on for proof for Wednesday.
Thank you. Personnel will be done and closed. And are there any additional reports at this point? Budget, finance, facilities, negotiations, I guess not. Any liaison reports?
No.
Any correspondence? Old business?
Through the chair, I'm not sure if this is old business or new business. It's been discussed before. I don't see anything on the agenda as far as us discussing the mayor's meeting and the chief of police with the security. I thought we were going to discuss that at this month's meeting.
It's on my closed
Yes.
session
Okay.
items to discuss. And based on what happens in closed session, it may be on Wednesdays.
Okay, I just didn't see it on any, okay.
Any other old
Thank you.
business?
Through the chair, I don't know if it's old or new either. But, getting our calendar, the Board of Ed meeting calendar, if we can put on the agenda for April, so we can plan for the summer and have all those dates and times well in advance, so everybody's aware.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions, old business? They'll move to new business. All right, may I have a motion to open the meeting for public comment?
So
Motion.
moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, is there any members of the public that would like to come up and make any comment, statements tonight? Seeing none? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, we have a motion to close for public comment?
So
Motion,
moved. Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are now going to move towards closed session, to recess for closed executive session, to discuss personnel, HIB investigations, student matters, and matters covered by the attorney-client privilege per NJSA 10-4-6, Open Public Meetings Act. The subject matter the subject matter discussed may be disclosed to the public if and when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Action will not be taken when the board reconvenes in open session. Do I have a motion to go to closed? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you all very much for coming.